friend. Welcome and welcome back to the channel. Thank you so much for clicking on the video. Listen, if this is your first time here, then welcome. I give lighthearted reviews of some of my favorite TV shows and movies. So if this is something that interests you, consider sticking around. Now, today, y'all, we are here to talk Washington Black. This is season 1, episode 2. This one was called Movements of Job People. And this one was really, really good. I don't want to waste any more time, y'all. Let's just go ahead and get into it. All right, now, when the episode opens, we see a young Wash and he's running through the woods. He's headed to the house. He's got to find Titch, right? Now, you guys remember last episode, we have Master Philip, which is the slave owner's crazy brother. It just seemed like last episode he just had it in for young Wash. I mean, he does not like that little boy. So anyway, he went and got him and told him to come with him in the woods. And then as they were walking, he pulled the gun out on him, but all we heard was a gunshot. We didn't know what happened. So that picks us up from where we are now. We got young Wash running. He gets to Titch, and Titch sees him and is like, oh my God, what happened? And so he tells Titch that Philip is dead. He's no longer with us. Now, as soon as he said that, Titch didn't ask any questions. He was just like, listen, we got to get you out of here because if Erasmus finds us, he is going to kill you for sure. And he's going to blame all of this on me. So Wash is down with it. He's like, okay, bet. But listen, can Kit come? And so Philip has, not Philip, Christopher has to explain to him, listen, if we take Kit, it's going to be too heavy. I'm not trying to be cruel or anything like that. I know that's your, you guys have your bond, but she can't come. So he was like, listen, we got to get out of here like right now. And I noticed that I want to say his name is Gaius or Deus. He's like the butler of the house. He does manage to see Titch and Wash like kind of duck away. Now, in the meantime, we see the overseers. They're walking through the woods and they actually find Philip's body along with the gun, and we see what's happened. So they like blow a whistle, and I guess this is like the universal whistle for all the overseers. Hey, we're looking for somebody, and 9 times out of 10 they know that it's Black. Now what probably happened was they came to the house, and that little girl that Wash was sitting with probably said, yeah, he came and he got Wash, and they went off into the woods, because I think one of the overseers actually did say that. So we know that they know that George Washington Black was with Philip. So nine times out of 10 they're assuming that that young Wash killed Philip, right? So he's got to go. So we see Titch. He's like, come on, we got to get up to the top where the flying machine is. Because remember, they were able to get that working last episode towards the end. So that's ready to go. So as they're going up the mountain, they got to go up to the top where the flying machine is. They finally get there. In the meantime, the overseers, they are hot on the trail, right? They are looking. So they got to hurry up and just book out of there. So they get up to the top because they realize that they're going to probably head up to the top to try to fly out of here. And so that's where they're also headed. Now, when they get to the top, they pack up the flying machine, and then Titch tells young Wash to cut the ropes. So we know when you cut the ropes, that means that the machine's going to go up in the air. And of course, where he's got to cut is like maybe a few feet away from where he has to go get in. So the point is, as he cuts the rope, young Wash has to hurry up and kind of jump before the flying machine just gets up in the air and gets away from him. So that's exactly what happened. He almost didn't make it, but he was able to jump up on there, and then Titch reached for his hand, and Titch was able to pull him up. So it was a close call, but they did end up getting away from these evil overseers for now. And so all we know now is that these overseers and Erasmus, everyone thinks that young Wash has killed Crazy Philip. Lord, it's a mess. All right, y'all. Now, the machine is working. They're up in the sky. Everything seems to be working just fine, right? Now, Wash is up there, and of course, his mind is on Kit, and he asks Titch, will I ever see her again? And Titch just acts like he doesn't hear him. He changes the subject and starts to talk about something else. But anyway, it's a bright, sunny, beautiful day, and it just seems like young Wash is just having a good time. He's smiling. Titch is teaching him all about, the compartments of this flying machine and all the gadgets and the barometric pressure readings and things of that nature. And y'all, we even see dolphins that are jumping in and out of the water. It's an absolutely beautiful sight to see. And young Wash is just enjoying it all. He's fascinated with the dolphins. He even knew, he remembered them in a book that Titch had given him. And it was just amazing to see how happy that kid was. And I was saying to myself, with the life that he's had to endure up until now, this is probably the happiest that he's ever been. So it was just good to see that moment between, him and Titch, and just him being happy. He even let out like a wahoo, probably never did that in his life. Probably too scared to ever do that out on the plantation. Now, back in Halifax, we see Tana and her daddy, and of course, they're still trying to plan this wedding. And so, Mr. Wolf is telling Tana that Mr. McGee's going to be by soon to talk specifics, the wedding dress, and things of that nature. Tana seems unimpressed, and she's like, "Honey, I could really care less about any of that." Now, across town, we see Medwin and Miss Angie, and they're trying to tuck Jack away because you guys remember last episode, somebody is looking for him, honey. They are hot on his trail. And so they figured the safest place for him is probably going to be at the basement of the church. So we learned that this was a place where Medwin and those guys would hide out people when we had bounty hunters that used to come to town looking for people. They'd hide them down in the basement of the church. Now, so we find out that Miss Angie's not a happy camper, not with Jack, because she finds out that yes, Medwin did know that his real name was George Washington Black, but she's upset because she feels like Jack should have trusted her enough to let her in on it. And Medwin tries to take up for Jack, and she just shut him down. Like, listen here, called him by his full government name. When I want your opinion, I ask you for it. And I know that was a horrible Jamaican accent, you guys. I am no Miss Angie. But anyway, she's upset because she's just now finding out, and she felt like, her and Jack were better than that. And I hope that she realizes that it was nothing personal, it was just something that he probably had to keep close hold, due to the nature of why they're looking for him. They think that he killed a white man. So, that's not nothing that we just want to start just telling everybody. But anyway, Medwin tells them that he's going to go out and try to find this bounty hunter and probably put a little bit of a scare in him. Tell him, go on about your business now. So we'll see how that works out. But back in the sky, we see that Titch and Young Wash has run into a little bit of a problem. Now, that bright, beautiful sky that they had earlier is gone. We've got like pitch black skies, it looks like, pouring down rain, thunder, lightning. They are running right into the storm. And so, of course, what happens? They get hit by the lightning and down they go. Now, ironically, there's a ship that's actually in the water, and the flying machine actually falls into the ship. And you guys will not believe what they encounter, but a bunch of pirates that have taken over this ship, and they've got blades pointed at them, guns pointed at them, and that's where we are now. And it's not looking good for young Wash and Titch. All right, y'all. Now we've got Young Wash, we've got Titch. They have crashed into these pirate ship, and honey, these pirates are not happy campers. Okay, they want to know what is going on. Who are y'all? They think that Titch is a spy, so they've got guns drawn, they got the knives drawn, and they're ready to take Titch out. So someone's like, throw him overboard, and they're like, yeah. And Titch is like, whoa, wait a minute, let's not get carried away now. So they rough him up a little bit. He gets beat up, and then they take him below deck. Now, of course, young Wash has never seen anything like this before. Now, coming from the slavery plantation, of course, he's used to seeing people that look like him get beat all the time. But to see the overseers get beat is like, whoa, no, this can't be real. So anyway, we're introduced to Barrington. Barrington seems to be like maybe the assistant captain of the ship, and he goes up to young Wash and starts asking him questions about Titch. So of course, like I said, young Wash is shocked about what he saw. So he asks Barrington, hey man, why did you hit him? And so Barrington goes on to tell him, that here on the ship, they make their own rules, and hey, you got to earn respect around here. And he said that Titch was disrespectful. And of course, that is the attitude. Look at where, they are in that time period. The white man is not really any chance they can get a lick back, they're gonna get it. Now, these people are just, they're pirates, bunch of wild people. They're living on their own rules, and they're just out there just doing their thing, right? Robbing, steal, they took over the boat. Apparently this boat called the Ave Maria. This was a boat for the Royal Navy. They stole the boat, and they've got this molasses on this boat, and I guess that they're going to like trying to sail to try to go somewhere to offload and get money for this molasses that they probably commandeered or stole from, wherever they stole it from. I don't know. But anyway, Wash seems to be amazed by Barrington and the way that Barrington is conducting themselves, giving them nuggets, giving them wise words. And, to me, it just seemed like it was sort of like a father figure, father son thing going on. But they definitely formed a bond. And Barrington seems to be, liking this kid as well. So anyway, he finds out that he can draw, so he's drawing pictures for everybody on the boat. And although young Wash is having a good time with the pirates, he always still does seem to ask about Titch. Hey man, can I see Titch? Hey, is Titch okay? Hey, do you think you can bring him up? And every time he does, Barrington is like, don't you worry about him, don't you worry about him. Barrington definitely doesn't see it for Titch. So we'll see what happens. Okay, now also on the ship, you guys, we meet Theodora. She is another one of the pirates who I believe is in some kind of position of power. I don't know if she's like the number two or three, but it's between Captain Alvarez, who we haven't seen yet, Barrington, and Theodora. So anyway, while Young Wash is making his money, he's drawing these lifelike pictures of all of the pirates, and they seem to be, they're paying them, and everyone seems to be having fun, and Young Wash seems to be enjoying himself. So someone's like, hey, Theodora, come over here and get your picture done too, right? And she's like, no, that's okay. I'm all right. So you can tell that she's definitely a leader on this boat. She's respected by the people, and she's just kind of laying back and just kind of watching and being kind of quiet, right? Now, in the meantime, Barrington's like, he wants to give a toast to Young Wash, the capturer of lost souls. And they're all like, yeah. And then he goes into the Ave Maria, a boat that's full of them. And so they're all laughing and cheersing it up. Cheers. And then somebody goes into the captain who serves us all wherever he may be. And then it's almost like a record scratch. Everyone kind of gets quiet. And so Barrington didn't like that he said that at all. And he's like, listen, Captain Alvarez is in his quarters. Where else would he be? Like, what was that statement all about, right? And so now it's all awkward. No one wants to get their picture done anymore. So the guy just kind of, said that he didn't mean any harm by it. And he said that the skipper hadn't been the same since he lost, and then he stopped, and then he just walked away. And I'm like, since he lost what? Fill us in. What's that all about, right? So we haven't seen the captain yet, but apparently the captain hadn't been the same since he lost something. He's down in the ship and we hadn't seen him. So we got to find out what that's all about. Now, in the meantime, we have young Wash, and he's asking Barrington if he can see Titch. Now, below deck, we do see Titch, and it seems like they do have him chained up down there, but they are allowing him to work on this motor, right? And so they're like, Titch is like, maybe if I can work on this motor and get it fixed, he's thinking that, maybe they'll let him up above deck, because it seems like he's been down there for a couple of days. Now, anyway, the next thing we see, young Wash sneak down there to see Titch, and he actually brought him some food. And so young Wash is telling him about all the fun that he's having, and yeah, I'm drawing pictures for him, and they're paying me, and everything's just great up there. And while this is going on, we see Barrington, he's coming down, and he catches Wash down there, right? And so he tells young Wash to go ahead back up deck, and then he asks Barrington where they got the ship. And that's when we find out from Barrington that they did steal the ship from the Royal Navy. Now, they keep Titch pretty much chained up downstairs, right? And then Barrington is telling Washington that the captain can use his eye and that he'll be meeting him soon. So I'm like, oh, okay. So now we're getting ready to meet Captain Alvarez. Now, in the meantime, poor young Wash, he is just really, really worried about Titch. And so he's asking Barrington, listen, can he please come up on deck? Like, it's been a few days. He hasn't had any food, hardly, no fresh air, no nothing. I'm sure he could use it. So Barrington and Wash, they begin to talk about this necklace that young Wash has on, and it seems like it has meaning that dates back to like their native land. And so just the connection between these two is just crazy, how they've just become like father son. Young Wash is just taking to him, and everything that Barrington is feeding into him, he's just drinking it all up. And I just love to see it, right? Now, as they're talking, Barrington and Young Wash are talking, and the next thing you know, Barrington tosses Young Wash into the water, and I'm like, oh my god, he just tossed him to the water. Like, I don't think Young Wash can swim, but they do end up pulling him out and saving him, and they have a big laugh about it. So I don't know, maybe it was just his initiation. They're pirates, they're crazy, who knows? But I love the scene. Young Wash didn't seem to be too bothered by it, but there is a message behind that, and we'll get there in a minute. All right, now back at Halifax, we see that Miss Angie and Jack have had a chance to sit down and talk, and Jack actually apologizes to Miss Angie for not being upfront with her from the start about who he really was, right? So they kiss and they make up, and everything's fine. And she notices a picture that Jack has drawn of Tana, and she recognizes her. She's like, "Hey, she's the one that comes by. She asks for my spices and things of that nature. Is that the Tana? Is that the one that you've been talking about?" And Jack is like, yeah. And so um Angie's like, listen, I heard that she was set to be married to Billy McGee. Do you know anything about that? And Jack is just like, what? Like, I don't believe it. Nope, that can't be true. And so Angie's just like, listen, these kind of things happen, and things like that just doesn't work out sometimes. Like, you got to take things into consideration of who she is, and probably the life that she's had to lead based on, the her background and who her mother and who her father was. And so Jack, we know that he's a dreamer, and he's just like, listen, we can create our own kind of world, and I just really need to know if this is true or not. So Miss Angie, can you please help me out here? So he's asking if Miss Angie can go to see Tana and tell Tana to meet him later on tonight at Preston's Cove. He's like, let her know that I have some magic that I need to show her. So of course Miss Angie is just, she understands, but she also knows the reality of the situation. But when you're young and when you're in love, there's really not much that you can say. Um, when it comes to this. So she's going to go ahead and she's going to help him out by going to see Tana. So we'll see if Tana shows up, and we'll see what happens. I think it's a dangerous game that Jack is playing by, risking it all to go out, because, and that's exactly what Angie tells him. Angie's like, listen, if Medwin finds out about that, or if these bounty hunters catch you going out here to risk it all for this girl, I mean, you're playing a dangerous game. So he's like, he doesn't care. He wants to see her. He just has to know for himself if this is really true. So, man, he is really over the top over Tana, to risk his own safety. I don't know, Jack. We'll see. All right, now we see Titch, and he's still down there trying to work on the motor. And Barrington comes downstairs and says, listen, I'm going to let you up on the deck, okay? It's been a few days, and I know you could use the air, but I just want to let you know I'm only letting you back on here because of Young Wash. Now, as soon as Titch gets like above deck, right, he goes straight up to Theodore. I'm like, gosh, can you calm down. You're going to get yourself shot as soon as you get up here. You're moving a little bit too fast, Titch. Just slow down a little bit. But he walks right up to her, and he's like, listen, I noticed you have molasses. And as soon as he said molasses, she was like, whoa, hold up. Put a knife to him. You trying to take my molasses? He's like, no, no, no. Calm down. I'm not trying to take your molasses. I'm just trying to let you know that if you want to offload some of this molasses, I got a contact that's in Virginia. So y'all want to sail to Virginia, you let me know. I can, set it all up for you. You guys can make a profit, and you don't have to worry about the Royal Navy looking for you, because the British are not going to sail to America, right? So this whole thing going to Virginia, it should be safe. It seems like it's a good idea. So Theodora is listening to what, he says, and she seems to be, she's listening to him. I don't know if she's picking up what he's putting down, but, you know, anyway, later on, we see down below deck, we've got Barrington, and he has young Wash down there with the captain, Captain Alvarez, and they're having him draw some kind of royal sign on some document or something. I'm not sure what that was all about. But anyway, the captain seems to be pleased about, the way that that looks. Now, in the middle of that, Theodora comes down and she starts to talk to the captain and Barrington about the conversation that she just had with Titch about going to Virginia, right? She's like, I think this would be a good idea. We can offload the molasses. And they're like, nope. The captain's like, we're going to Cuba. So she's like, Cuba? And she's like, listen, man, we've been ducking and dodging the Royal Navy for weeks. And now you want to go to Cuba? Like, we said that we would never go back there. Like, what are we doing? And so that's when the captain starts giving all the excuses and all the reasons as to why it would be in their best interest to go to Cuba, right? It's going to be safe for them. And, you know, that's where they want to go. So, of course, Theodora knows it's a horrible idea to go to Cuba. So she kind of looks at him for a few seconds and she's like, Cuba it is, right? I mean, what are you going to do? This guy's the captain. So, anyway, next scene we see is the captain is having a talk with young Wash, right? It's just him and both of them just sitting down there, and the captain is just getting sloshed, right? He's just drinking and just looks a mess, and I don't know what's going on. But anyway, he asks young Wash if he misses home. So they start to talk and everything, and the captain's like, it's like, yeah, I miss home and I miss her. And so young Wash is like, what do you mean you miss her? Right. So it seems as though the captain is a little lovesick, y'all. I don't know what's going on. And he misses his baby and he wants to go home. Right. Now, he has young Wash draw a picture of, I guess, the lady in question. Right. And this must be the real reason why he wants to go to Cuba. So in the meantime, Theodora comes in because I guess she had told everybody on the deck that, hey, we're not going to go to Virginia. There's a change of plans and now we're headed to Cuba. So she goes downstairs to let the captain know, that everybody knows and everything seems to be okay. And so she notices the picture that young Wash drew and she puts it all together. And honey, she gets heated. She is like, listen, I will follow you to the ends of the earth, but not on a lie. So I don't know what's going on here, but it seems like that the captain is like, I don't care about y'all's safety. I don't care about being caught by the Royal Navy. I don't care about getting caught by the Spaniards. All I know is I'm going to Cuba. I'm going to see my baby. I am hurting. I'm drinking. I got my brokenhearted playlist playing down in the basement, and it is not looking good for the captain. He wants to go see that girl, y'all. So y'all can go with me if y'all want to. I am the captain of this ship, and if we get shot up, we just get shot up. And it is what it is. So the captain's being just a tiny bit selfish here, y'all. But we gonna see what happens. All right, y'all. We see Theodora, and honey, she is upset. She goes to her little treasure chest, honey. She puts on her little fancy coat. She takes off that little do rag she had on her head, lets her hair down, lets her locks flow, honey. And the next thing you know, she must have went down to go get the captain. He must have been drunk because she was able to, I guess, put a gun on him, and she brought him up above deck. So as she's leading him up above deck, everybody in the crew was like, whoa, wait a minute, what's going on? Why does she have the captain like that? So Theodora makes an announcement, and it's like, listen, I'm bringing charges up against Captain Alvarez. He don't care about us, y'all. All he wants to do is go to Cuba so he can see that woman. And I'm gonna tell you right now, I am not gonna die over him and this woman. So of course Barrington's looking at all this like, whoa, hold on, slow down now. What are we talking about? And he was like, listen, you out of line. I don't know what's going on here, but if you all about that and you're standing on big business about this here, then say so. So she lets the captain go, and the captain goes behind Barrington. Barrington's got a weapon pointed at her, and she steps up to the weapon like she's willing to lay down her life about what she believes in, right? And so when the crew starts to see this, because they have their weapons pointed on Theodora as well, slowly but surely they start lowering their weapons and getting on the side of Theodora. So at the end of all of this, we have Theodora and the crew, and on the other side we have Barrington and the captain. So it's already been said. The crew's already been seeing how the captain was acting anyway. He's been drinking and carrying on and not being, wherever he wasn't being a leader, right? And the crew saw that, so they was like, man, nah, we believe Theodora, we gonna ride with her. So they decided to exile him, and they didn't exile Barrington, but Barrington decided to go with the captain because he was his, I guess that was his right hand man. And so young Wash is sitting there watching this whole thing, just traumatized, I'm sure. And more so because of the fact that Barrington decides that he's going to go with the captain. And so he goes up to him and is like, why do you have to go, Barrington? They formed a bond, and, it's just like father, son, and now you're leaving me. And you can just see the hurt in young Wash's face. I felt so bad for him. And even Barrington was all choked up. He was crying, and he just told him, listen, the reason why I'm leaving with them is because he was the one who taught me how to swim. Now, that goes back to, remember, Barrington tossed him in the water, but although he tossed him in the water, he also brought him back up. So he gave him a hug and he said, make sure that you find someone to teach you how to swim. And so immediately the camera cuts to Titch, and Titch is just kind of looking like, what's everybody looking at me for? And so, anyway, I thought it was a touching scene. But one thing that did strike me as kind of odd was the way that young Wash kind of looked at Titch in that moment. All before this whole episode and this whole time here on the ship, young Wash has been always looking out for Titch. Hey, can I go see Titch? Hey, can I bring Titch some food? Hey, can Titch come up for some air? But in this moment, it seemed like he kind of looked at him a little different, sort of like, is he really the person that's going to teach me how to swim, or is he going to leave me just like Philip said that he would? So I don't know. I think that something clicked in young Wash in that moment that kind of changed how he feels about Titch, but we'll see what happens. All right, y'all. Now, back in Halifax, we do see that Jack and Hannah did meet up at the cove, and they go ahead and they get into the water and they're talking, hey, he's telling her that his dream is to go to London and win the World Science Expo. And she's talking about how one of her dreams is to, play the piano like her mom did. And so they're getting to know each other and just staring into each other's eyes, and it's all love, and it's getting darker outside, and I'm getting worried because I'm like, listen, the bounty hunters are after you. Y'all need to wrap this up. But anyway, when it gets dark, here's when the magic comes, because the water starts to illuminate and it like glows on the water, and it was just so pretty. Now, after they see that, they come back on land, and they're like kind of getting close to each other and staring into each other's eyes. And next thing we hear is, get away from that woman. So of course, this white man on a horse comes up and he's asking questions. He wants to know, what is going on between y'all two. And so Tana makes up an excuse like, hey, we're out here, we're working, and y'all, you better leave us alone because I will tell my benefactor, Billy McGee, about you, and it's probably be lights out for you, sir. So just please leave us alone and go away. So he ends up going away. He tells them, look, y'all be careful. He goes away, and then they share a kiss. I'm like, Jack, if you don't get back to the church. But anyway, the lastly, we see Medwin does go to try to find a bounty hunter. He goes into this white pub and he meets up with what's the guy's name? He meets up with Mr. Willard, Mr. John Willard. They have a conversation. It's clear that they don't like each other. And so um, Medwin is just like, listen, there's nobody here by the name of George Washington Black. And so you might want to just get out of here. And so he said, listen, I'm getting ready to retire. And before I retire, I'm going to close out all my cases. I've closed them out on everybody except for one, which is George Washington Black. And I got a lead that he was out here. So I'm not going nowhere until I find him. So Medwin is like, well, listen, why such the large coin for this little slave boy from 8 years ago? Like, what's the big deal about him? And he goes, well, the big deal about him is that he killed a white man. So you kill a white man, we got to go search the ends of the earth until we find you. And that's how the episode went off. So I don't think that although Medwin knew that his name, that Jack was really George Washington Black, I don't think that he knew that this was the reason why they were looking for him. So I think this changes the game a little bit, but we'll see how next episode. But it is really getting good. But that was the end of the episode, you guys. Let me know what y'all think about it. What do you think is going to happen between Tana and Jack? Do you think that this is going to actually end up working between them two? Also, over here in the pirate ship, what's going to happen with Titch and young Wash? Is that going to all work out? So much to see. I will see you guys next time. Thank you so much for watching. And until then, bye, y'all.